Next one. Growth. How do you create growth? Seek growth is number 6. Seek growth. How do you really scale it? How do you make it big? Growth is a function of understanding why people do what they do, and also a function of understanding what specific elements in the business are those things that the masses are going to want. And generally speaking, you will find that there's a little curve that happens like this. And most businesses actually only get to about here. And what happens is they build their business to a point where there's enough money for them to live on, and then they kind of plateau out. And they stop doing the things that made them successful in the first place. See, this could well be perhaps, let's say 1 year. 1 year of operating that business, and you go hell for leather on that first year, and the moment that you start making money and the money starts, you start taking a wage from the business, we kind of start to slow down a little bit, and we start to realize that this business is pretty successful, I can live off the business, and we stop doing the very things that made us successful in the first place. So how do you get across this chasm? And this is usually can be a tough place to get through. Well, this is scalability, and this is the next stage, and this is what I do for work. We help businesses scale. We help businesses become market leaders. We help businesses acquire other companies that are already doing the things that they want to do in the future. And that is the fastest way to build a business. You can try and learn everything yourself, but it might take you 1,000 lifetimes. The best thing to do is find a business that is already moving forward, and then look to grow that business internally, but mainly externally, through acquisition. And if you look, I challenge you, in fact, to look at everyone on any of the rich lists, okay? They've all made their money through acquiring businesses. Even Warren Buffett. You might say, well, Warren Buffett is a stock guy. Well, yeah, but the only real way that Warren Buffett is able to invest in all these companies is because he owns certain companies outright, right? Like Graco. Some of you might know that insurance firm. That's float. You've got an insurance company, it's a great business because you get all the money up front and you just hold it. So now you can invest in all these other companies. But if you really look at the most successful people, you will notice that what they do is buy complementary businesses and scale that way. And you can see, it's obvious, isn't it? It's the fastest way to grow a business. Who out there currently has customers that we want to acquire? And we go and get those customers. We go and identify those customers and we build the business. And then the last one, the last law, if you will, is give back. Give back. And I think everyone here knows that I don't really need to tell you why we need to give back. You know, I do believe what goes around comes around, and if we can make the world a better place by what we do and the impact that we leave on this planet, then that will be paid back to us. In 1982, moments after Air Florida's Flight 90 left the runway at Washington's National Airport, it was clear that the plane was not going to fly. As it shuddered and stalled, the pilot turned to his co-pilot and said, "We're going down." 3 seconds later, the plane slammed into the 14th Street Bridge and plunged into the icy waters of the Potomac River. Onlookers watched in horror as the fuselage, which had broken free from the tail section, sunk beneath the water with its rows of passengers still in their seats. Within 4 minutes, 4, 5, and 6 people were left bobbing and trying to hold on to the tail section. Only 6 people were left. The rest had died. Priscilla Teredo had a newborn baby with her on that flight. She was screaming hysterically, trying to find a baby. Her eyes were filled with jet fuel. Bert Hamilton had broken his hip and his arm, and he was holding on to another passenger, Kelly Duncan, who was a flight attendant who'd made it. But it was freezing cold in the water, and as onlookers watched on, they realized that they couldn't get across the icy water, so the only way that they could get these people out was by helicopter. 5 minutes later, that's a long time in a situation like that. 5 minutes later, the helicopter could be heard thwacking through the sky, dangling a lifeline. As it dangled over that carnage, Arlen D. Williams, a balding, middle-aged bank examiner from Florida, grabbed the first line, and he handed it to Bert Hamilton. Bert Hamilton grabbed it and was pulled to safety very quickly. On the second trip, the helicopter came back. Kelly Duncan grabbed it with another individual. As they went up, this second individual fell back in the water. An onlooker from the shore jumped in to help her and save her. She was the one with the jet fuel in her eyes. The third and fourth time, Arlen Williams caught the line and he handed it to the next person. On the final trip, when he came back, the helicopter came back, Williams was gone. He hadn't made it. Now, you and I will never have to be in a situation like that, I'm sure. But if someone like that could do something for strangers, how incumbent upon us is it just to do something with our business or our professional life that can impact others in a significant way? Most of the businesses that are successful today and have really made it didn't start out with the intention of making a lot of money. They started out in creating a need, understanding demand, and really trying to execute against that to help people create a better life. I just saw a gap. Usually they say, I just saw a need, I just saw a demand, and I wanted to create something. So if you go after the money first, you might be successful, but you won't be fulfilled. Does that make sense? Understand that it's important to recognize that why am I doing this in the first place, and let the money come after that. Self-worth is always more important than net worth. But if you get that right, you can look forward to the net worth. One last point, and I'll be done. This is a poem that I learned a few weeks ago. I read it and I thought this really applies to what we're talking about here today in understanding what it takes to be successful in our lives as individuals, just trying to get ahead in the world. It goes like this. A lady was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop, bought a bag of cookies and found a place to drop. Engrossed in her book, she happened to see that the man who sat beside her, as bold as could be, took a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. As he munched on cookies, she watched the clock, as this gutsy cookie thief diminished the stock. She got more and more agitated as the minutes ticked by, and said if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each one he took, she took one too. And when there was only one left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half while he took the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this man's so rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She'd never before felt so appalled and sighed with relief when her flight was called. As she gathered her belongings, she headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. As she boarded the plane, she sank in her seat and opened a book which was almost complete. As she reached in her bag, she gasped with surprise. there was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If these are mine, she thought with despair, then the others were his, and he tried to share. In a moment of clarity and a moment of disbelief, she realized that she was the ungrateful one, the ingrate, the thief. Why do I share that with you? For one reason. Sometimes we think we know what it takes to be successful in life. The only way you can truly be successful in life is by getting around people that have already done it. And I challenge you to do that. It's been a great group. Thank you very much for this. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Do you want? Have we got some time for questions, or? Yeah. Okay. Well, just so you know, we've got a few copies of the book. If you want to get a few copies, you can see James at the back. For those, if you're interested. If you guys have got any questions, by all means, shout them out. I'd love to answer them.